Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for our first event in our sustainability series here at the World Trade Center Denver. I am Catherine Cerisa, the Director of Business Development here at the World Trade Center Denver. I have worked on creating sustainable solutions for major brands, and I'm extremely excited to be sharing the stories of our region's rock stars in energy and electric vehicles on this panel today. Colorado is a global epicenter for sustainability, and we're happy to be a part of it. The World Trade Center's goal is to facilitate trade in and out of the Rocky Mountain region, which strengthens and fosters trade diplomacy between our country and our trading partners. World Trade Center has trade services, such as the Global Trade Activator, which gets brands up and exporting in 4 to 6 months. Please check out our website for our calendar of events. Please join us for our next sustainability event on sustainable supply chains, and please check out our membership options, as we would love to have you all as permanent members of our network. Next, I'd like to introduce Mike King of CDOT so he can share the exciting things they're up to with EV.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mike King from the Colorado Department of Transportation. A little bit of background. I grew up in suburban Philadelphia. I worked for several years in Chile and the Dominican Republic. And then I came to Colorado in 2011 to study international affairs at the University of Denver, which is where I met Catherine. I currently work at CDOT's Office of Innovative Mobility. And our mission is to provide travel options driven by new technologies and systems that reduce emissions, improve safety, and increase access for people across the state. My work focuses a lot on electrification and energy in the transportation system, working with colleagues across state agencies, local governments, community organizations, and the public. And the state of Colorado has some aggressive goals for reducing greenhouse gases, as are identified in our recently released greenhouse gas roadmap. One of the biggest areas of opportunity is in transportation electrification. The state works to support this transition with a mix of policies and regulations, grant funding for charging infrastructure and vehicle replacements, and working to build a supportive zero-emission ecosystem, everything from research to workforce development. When you talk about transportation electrification, many people think immediately of passenger cars and of a specific brand in particular. But as we'll learn today, there's a large and growing variety of electrified transportation options across the multiple sectors: passenger, freight, delivery, transit, as well as construction, shipping, and even aeronautics. And all of that is made possible by advances in battery and other core technologies that underlie the EV revolution. So Colorado is fortunate to have so many world-renowned research institutions, universities, and companies that are working in this space and expanding the range of future possibilities. As a state, we benefit from their expertise and their proximity. Having all these folks in our backyard, we're always looking to forge new partnerships. So I'm very pleased to have had a small part in bringing this event to you today. I'm really looking forward to hearing from the panelists and all the participants. And with that, I'm going to pass the mic to our moderator, Helen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Helen Mallakh, and I'm the Executive Director of CCIA, which is Colorado Cleantech Industries Association. We are an association that focuses on working on policies, people, products, and programs that expand a more affordable and efficient and secure energy economy. It's my pleasure to be with such an esteemed panel today. And I know everybody's so interested in the directions of clean energy and EVs. So we've got a lot of exciting things ahead of us the next hour. And with that, I'm going to kick it off and ask our panelists to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about themselves and their company. So George, would you like to go first?
Thank you. I'm sure happy to and honored to be amongst all of you and presenting and discussing today the future of EV, and in particular, EV in the air, that is electric airplanes. And it's probably not the first thing that comes to mind, but Aerospace has been developing electric aircraft for over a decade now, working with many of us here, many of the researchers and background that various aerospace and industry has brought, advancing batteries and motors and things together with advanced benefits from the design of new aircraft. But up front, instead of an internal combustion engine, like on a Cessna or a Piper, we have an electric motor. And that changes everything in aviation. starting with a smaller airplane, going to larger airplanes, piloted airplanes with training, utility, transportation, air taxi, and even business aviation here in the not too distant future. Myself, I'm an Air Force guy. I'm a former Air Force pilot. I trained young fighter pilots at a program called NJEPT, Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot. You know, Air Force, they love acronyms, right? So just deal with me. NJEPT, Euro-NATO Joint Jet Pilot Training. I did that for 5 years in the supersonic T-38. I went to Desert Storm after that and flew in the large four-engine jet transport airplane. And then following my Air Force service, I've been doing advanced programs and development with Boeing under a Raytheon contract, another program, and of course now by Aerospace with the electrification of aviation. It's my passion, it's my DNA. I love it, and we can really make a difference working together as a team.
Thank you. Doug, please go next.
Yes, hello everyone. This is Doug Campbell. I'm the CEO of Solid Power. Solid Power is a company that was spun out of the University of Colorado Boulder back in the 2014 timeframe. And as the name implies, what we're working on is next generation energy storage technologies that utilize fully solid components. There's a huge amount of interest, especially of late, around solid state batteries within the vehicle electrification industry. And that's primarily because they bring to the table much, much higher levels of cell energy in comparison to today's lithium ion, as well as having a much higher level of safety, which of course can lead to significant reductions in vehicle level costs. I've led the company since its founding. Interestingly, I have zero relevant background to be running a battery company. As I jokingly like to say, I hated chemistry in college, but here I am leading a chemistry company on steroids. Really, my background is in engineering, specifically aerospace engineering. And interestingly, in addition to being CEO of Solid Power, I also ran a Longmont-based aerospace company called Rocor up until the end of 2018, and then remained with the company as board chairman up through October of this year when that company was acquired by Redwire Space. So I'm very pleased as of today to have only one job.
Thanks, Doug. Lauren, you're next.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name's Lauren Isaac. I am the Director of Business Initiatives at EasyMile, which is a driverless technology company. We're based in France. I used to have really great business trips, not so much right now, but our North America headquarters is actually here in Denver. So we specialize in applying our technology to different types of vehicle platforms to automate them. Examples of our vehicles that are commercially available today are a driverless shuttle, which we've actually operated here in Colorado at the National Renewable Energy Lab in Golden. We've done a first and last mile solution in Denver that connected to an RTD train station, as well as recently, as in support of COVID-19 activities, we helped a local food shelter and delivered goods as they were getting overwhelmed with deliveries. So, but we actually have deployments all over the world. We also have a automated baggage tractor. So we specialize in both goods movement and people movement, all electric vehicles though. So personally, I have my whole career in transportation. I'm extremely passionate about getting people into shared rides. I've worked in public transit, ride share, bike share, and most recently driverless vehicles. And to give you an idea how passionate I am, I got married about 4 years ago at Yosemite National Park, and I went on a mission to get a driverless company. At the time, I didn't work for EasyMile to provide a driverless shuttle at my wedding. Unfortunately, I was not able to make it happen, but it is something the industry is actually, they talk about. It comes up in discussion because I networked my way through all of the companies to try and make it happen. So someday.
Thank you, Lauren. Tim.
Thank you, Helen, and pleased to be here. Thank you for the time, and thanks to the audience for the attention today. We'll keep it interesting. Happy to be with the esteemed group, and I think one of the neat parts that you see as we put this together is a really wide group of team members, not competitors. So our space in the electric vehicle industry is we build commercial electric vehicles in the medium and heavy duty space. We want you to think about not just last mile vans that we build, but also things like an ambulance, a shuttle bus, a bucket truck, a tow truck, all the way up to a big motor coach. So we're in the business of electrifying all of those vehicles. We assemble the vehicles here in Colorado. We also build powertrains for strategic partners here in Colorado as well. So very excited about the ecosystem and the infrastructure that exists here. And we are partners with many of the people on the call today. So it's a critical part of our success that this ecosystem and supply chain exists so successfully in Colorado. And I expect even the people that we aren't closely connected with will build close connections, very shortly and somewhat from this call. So a little bit of my personal background. I'm a 5th generation Colorado resident. I graduated Colorado State University with a mechanical engineering degree. I've always been a software guy and a mechanical guy, and so I'm in my perfect job right now of the combination of those two that we build in terms of electric vehicles. And as I said, excited to be a part of what Adrian's doing at Danfoss and what CDOT's doing, and love seeing what BI's doing. So very excited to be with the group today.
Thank you, Tim. And last but not least, Adrian with Danfoss, since you already got some kudos there from Tim.
Tim, I should say good afternoon, everyone. Thanks a lot, Tim. I appreciate that. We've had the opportunity and we've been fortunate to work with just about everyone on this call. So from that perspective, I think it's been very enriching for Danfoss. And a little bit about myself, I'm actually Director of Global Sales for the Editron business on-highway business, I'm sorry. But we address the market globally from an on-highway and off-highway perspective, as well as marine. So addressing all of those particular applications that fall within that space, which includes industrial, agriculture, energy storage, any type of commercial application that's available in the marketplace. And interestingly enough, I would say that not only that, but we clearly want to be a part of this ecosystem that evolves to make it a green environment. A little bit about myself. I'm actually from Chicago, grew up in Chicago, graduated from Oberlin College in Ohio, and also have my executive MBA from Michigan State. So go green, go white. Sorry, everyone, but I have to say that. And then also my background from a standpoint of working, I was with Motorola for 14 years in various roles from account management to executive level roles within the automotive sector. So I was in Chicago, moved to Michigan or relocated to Michigan. Worked there for with Motorola for 14 years, doing various business with from an electronic standpoint with a lot of the OEMs and tier ones. And then also from that standpoint, I moved to work with a company called Linamar, and on the machining side or mechanical side. So I've got that background of similar to what Tim says, electronics as well as mechanical applications, but I'm not an engineer. So for me, I kind of understand the team and work with the team to hopefully improve and grow our business globally. And then even though our office is in Denver, Colorado, I reside in Michigan. So I have, I guess I'm living best of both worlds right now.
Thank you, Adrian. Well, what an incredible panel we have with us today. So let's start things off with our first question. And I'm going to have each of our panelists discuss it, but we'll start, Doug will start. But our first question is, what are the greatest global trade and export possibilities for your products and technologies?
Yeah, so given that we're sort of right in the center of this sort of transformation that's happening in the transportation industry, which is vehicle electrification, I mean, I think we're about as international as it gets. I'm currently interfacing with, I'd say at least half, if not 2/3 of the world's auto OEMs, the majority of which are not located here in the United States. So, I sort of have the unique insight into seeing all of the auto OEMs' various roadmaps, not only as it pertains to vehicle electrification, but just, as they progress through their platforms and of course start to adopt advanced technologies, including, autonomous vehicles, as well as advanced energy storage, which is where we come into play. So, what's public right now is we have OEM partnerships with BMW, Hyundai, and of course here in the United States, Ford as well. Of course, we're interfacing with a much broader set of those. So look for some much bigger announcements, shall we say, in 2021. So, again, I pre-COVID used to spend a lot of time on planes and those were international flights. And that's just because so much of that supply chain dynamics is not located here in the United States. So it's pretty exciting, and it's pretty exciting to watch Colorado, which has historically not been so much of an automotive industry player, become one as things like vehicle autonomy and vehicle electrification really come online. So in short, we're about as international as it gets.
Thanks, Doug. Lauren, can you give us your thoughts on EasyMile and this question?
Yeah, I completely agree. It becomes more of an international opportunity for EasyMile. We actually, the vehicles are manufactured wherever they were originally manufactured. So for example, our automated baggage tractor is based on a partnership with TLD, which is the world's largest global supply equipment provider. So they're manufactured in France and they are provided globally to, for example, airports and industrial sites. So we're very much not limited by Colorado. If anything, Colorado was our chosen place for our North American hub, but our crew here serves the North American market, which frankly is huge. And for that, we also globally are focused all over the world, because the places that we're serving are places like airports, community developments, hospitals, universities, the list goes, and then obviously just public roads for the deployment of these vehicles. So you can imagine sky's the limit on where we will deploy them.
Thank you for that. Tim, what are your thoughts? I know you have a lot in the pipeline, so to speak.
Yes, so we see it very similar to the other folks in the sense that electrification is a worldwide play. Electrification of vehicles is worldwide, although vehicles themselves can be fairly localized. So we see the same thing. For example, most vehicles that are in Europe don't come to the United States in the truck business and vice versa. And even when you segment the truck business, something like tractor trailers are very different business worldwide than, say, a class 3 van is. So, and everything in between. And those of you that have traveled know this kind of intuitively, that you won't see a 450 shuttle bus anywhere in Europe or overseas. They don't exist. And likewise, you won't see the equivalent of those Ivecos that are overseas here in the United States. So the vehicles tend to be localized, but the electrification is not. So when we think about batteries or even solid state batteries like Doug talked about, the need is certainly worldwide, and the need for what we do in putting it all together, creating the software and the hardware and the wiring harnesses is absolutely necessary overseas. And we have a lot of activity. For us, the activity we're most interested in, this is different for those of us on the phone, so I realize this is a different strategy, but we've tended to focus more on Canada, Mexico, South America, as opposed to where I know, many of the others have had extraordinary success in China and in India. And so we've taken a little different path there, but absolutely see a very, very big market internationally and a real need for what we're doing. And the competition is sporadic and different. And so we believe there's a very, very large opportunity for us internationally.
Thank you, Tim. And of course, Adrian's next. Danfoss is already so international. So give us your view on this.
Good point. I would piggyback on everything that has been stated for sure, particularly with the opportunity for us to be very, very apparent and transparent in providing these solutions to the market. Tim mentions about the various vehicle applications. I think Doug mentioned batteries. Lauren mentioned autonomous type of activities, but within all of those spaces, you have to deliver the powertrain, if you will, to provide solutions for those applications. And with the various opportunities such as power, torque, these types of applications need various motors, inverters to support the growth and development of those types of applications globally. And when I say that, not only for, and I'll even jump on George and a little bit here to say that when we speak powertrain, you also have to speak it from an aeronautical aspect as well too. So from that perspective, we have the capabilities to supply those types of applications globally. We do support that globally from those aspects, and look forward to doing that and working with various OEMs and tier ones across the globe in providing those types of solutions for their opportunities and applications.
Thank you, Adrian. And piggybacking off of that, George, would you like to tell us your views on this?
Yeah, aviation and aerospace is very, very interesting. We used to think of the United States and North America very much as the center of the world in terms of consumption of aviation aerospace products. 2/3 or so would be a North American or US focus. In the last 5 or 10 years and going forward, we're seeing a real shift in the economics, the growth, the economics in terms of transportation and growth of aerospace around the world. Now we're roughly on par, about 50-50. What's unique about electric aviation is that the differential in the price point for aviation gasoline or jet fuel and the cost of electricity is dramatic. An equivalent flight electric, as opposed to conventional airplane, is 10 times less expensive, 10 times in the US. In Europe, the cost of aviation fuel is much, much higher. In Asia, multifold higher yet again. So as we see these emerging economies worldwide, we see a delta in energy costs really impacting the desire for electric aviation much more greatly overseas than we have where we have here in the US more modest differential. So Buy Aerospace is looking at a worldwide economy, local or regional impacts. Many of us know in Europe, for example, one of our largest customers is in Norway. And there's a young lady there in Scandinavia that's been very vocal about the environment and about CO2, and to the point where aviation in particular has been called out and focused on. And one of our largest customers, turns out, is in Norway. And so we look at Colorado as the pioneer, the innovation, the creator of this great potential, but it's a worldwide and a real opportunity across the globe to have a beneficial outcome with electric aviation. Not just the obvious environmental, but the compelling, the problem we're trying to solve here is economic as well.
Absolutely, George. I think that's a great point. Also, dovetailing with that, a really big key, and this is our second question, is around the policies, because policies are so critical in the EV space. I know for everyone on this call they are. So I'm going to start, and I'll start with Lauren, asking the next question. What policies would support enhanced international trade in the EV sector?
So I'll talk about policies for electric vehicles in general. They are largely driven by at the state level and sometimes local. And for us, places that have strong electric vehicle policies in place, including, for example, Colorado, tend to be great, more favorable in terms of wanting to introduce autonomous and electric vehicles. And this usually often aligns with more investment in the charging infrastructure associated with it, which is obviously really important. For us, I will also add that regulations regarding autonomous vehicles also become really important, and it's quite the challenge for us. It's something that we face as we deal with deployments on public roads globally, where there is no consistent autonomous regulation in place, not even just at federal levels, but even state and local. And so we are constantly navigating that, and as much as we can influencing it. So I know that's slightly different than the EV policies, but they become very relevant for us.
Thank you, Lauren. Tim, what do you think about policies that can enhance your situation for your company?
Yeah, so one of the things I'm passionate about for the last 10 years, policy has been centered around the carrot. California has had their high efficiency voucher incentive program. The Volkswagen Emissions Mitigation Trust Fund has several $billion still in it to give people incentive to buy the vehicle. And that was important to get things started. But now that we have vehicles available, Lightning has 7 different platforms available from class 3 to class 7. There is plenty of availability for the fleets now. I believe we have to look at policy now from the stick side rather than the carrot side. And we're starting to see that happen with what's happening in California with the governor there, Governor Newsom, outlawing, in our business, the truck side of it. No more gasoline or diesel trucks starting in 2035, but it's phased in even before that. Transportation on the regional transportation side and the transit side has also been mandated. So, and now the next thing that's happening is zero emission zones. And London first templated their first zero emission zone, and it's been very successful. It reduced air particulates by 37%, reduced the noise dramatically in the zero emission zone. And we're seeing a lot of interest, and some of it with cities obviously looking for other ways to grab back and claw back some tax money after COVID, looking at this idea of zero emission zones as starting out with freight. And we think those are great ideas because we think cities need it. It's about cleaning up the air and health. And with COVID, we all know there's a direct relationship between poor air quality and health. And so given that, the idea that cities can take on the zero emission zone idea, generate some revenue, we think that's the next thing to happen in policy and regulation. It would have an immediate positive impact on our business, an immediate positive impact on the people who live in the cities that put it in place, both in terms of noise and in terms of air quality. So that's the next step. Obviously, if there are great vouchers and incentives, we'll continue to use them and take advantage of them. But we think it's time now to switch just like we did back in the early diesel days, started mandating air particulate filters and the rest of what we had to do to clean up those engines. It's time now to get rid of them and mandate that.
Thank you so much. Adrian, I'm going to throw this question to you too. Obviously, for your company already being global, there's a lot of policy issues anyway. Given your vanguard position in so many of these companies and countries, what's your view on policy issues?
I think the impact can be a twofold, one being funding and one being emissions, if you will, to drive better or zero emissions. So when you look at both aspects of it, I think they have to go hand in hand. When you put the dollars behind the business to allow for improved emission controls, I think that's really where you get a major impact. From a funding side, globally, you have DOE, various aspects like that. You have a APC, various entities where they are looking to improve upon not only the opportunities for additional funding and putting more vehicles out there that are electrified or electrified vehicles, but also from improving their emissions from that standpoint. And when you put the two together, I think that's really where you have the impact, and not in automotive, I should say on road, but off highway as well as marine. So it's the entire ecosystem that is impacted, not just, boats that are or yachts, if you will, that are on the road and in the water. Full ecosystem, not just one aspect of it.
Thank you so much for that. And I think that holistic approach is really key from a policy standpoint. George, obviously your segment in your sector needs different types of policies, and they're probably very complicated because of the international nature and your specific sector. Can you speak to this question on the policy side?
Just for fun, normally aviation wouldn't be included in a call like this because most people, even today, don't think of aviation as part of the EV infrastructure, part of the EV world as yet. I know it's coming. We see some of the politics in the media begin to discuss what electric aviation might look like. But just as a reminder for all of us here, as we kind of go back 5 years and 10 years, and even more, a lot of the discussions about how we support this transition to electric was assumed to be automobile based. And so when the grant language was written, it was written with a vehicle with 4 wheels on it. And of course, now a lot of our friends, as we all are here, say, well, we need to begin to think about what aviation might be and how incredibly important the aviation particulates and the CO2. People are starting to pay attention to that, but it is kind of funny, not funny, but I think we understand when we look at the policies and the bureaucracy kind of behind this transition, well intended, but so often it turns out the definition of a vehicle has four tires on it. And and of course, the way it's written, you have to, it's not just extract a word or rechange the definition, the whole law has to be addressed. So somewhat amusing, but also somewhat concerning. Clearly, as you point out, Helen, aviation is more complex. Worldwide, you have multiple layers of governmental participation on an airport. When we talk about autonomous vehicles, ground transportation, the discussions are somewhat simpler as contrasted to trying to do something on an airport with aviation authorities in participation. So there is additional complexity there, tremendous benefit, but it's not quite as straightforward as a ground vehicle.
Thank you, George, for that question. I'm going to go next to Doug. Doug, obviously for Solid Power, this is a different space for you. What policies do you see are important, and are they more around uniformity, standards? What policies are you looking for, or are they down the pipeline versus for your product per se?
Yeah, so I'm gonna actually take a slightly different angle in responding to that question around, sort of what I personally would like to see in policies. And I'll start with what I'm observing outside of the United States. And what I'm observing is that nations and economic areas are making fairly massive public-private investments around the manufacturing base and the manufacturing infrastructure for vehicle electrification. We're talking multi-billion-dollar funds in China, in South Korea, in Japan, in the European Union, and even in the United Kingdom, now that they're no longer part of the EU. And my concern is that there's really nothing equivalent here in the United States. And of course, we all know that over the last several decades, the U.S. automotive manufacturers have lost market share to international OEMs, and the concern here is that potentially could only get worse as vehicle electrification really takes off and takes over a majority of the market share. Now, I know some folks might point at Tesla and say, well, look what Tesla's doing. And I need to remind you that, put Tesla's market cap aside, the reality is Tesla's production volumes are actually quite small. And so if you really look at the sort of gigawatt hours of cell production that is being deployed really throughout the world, what's being deployed in North America is still relatively small. So bringing this full circle back to policies is really to look for opportunities where those kind of public-private investments can be made here in the United States to frankly to keep companies like Solid Power based in the United States, because absent of those, market dynamics will eventually force us not just to leave Colorado, but leave the United States.
That is really key. And it's also a sobering message, I think, that we have to kind of keep in mind as we go forward and with some of our clean tech views and ideas. Now, I am going to go on to our third question, which I'm going to target. Well, we'll first start with Tim on this. But so why do you think that the Rocky Mountain region, or if you want to talk about Colorado or our region, has become a hub for so much EV and related clean tech business? And how does our area compare on a global scale?
So first, obviously, talent's a very exciting part of this. And I was at Colorado State University in the early 1990s working on one of the early natural gas vehicle programs, which was, pre when you could actually electrification work. But the point is, alternative fueled vehicles have been have come out of the university systems, and of course NREL as well, for 30 years now. So a very significant investment that the state has made at the university levels, and that students along the way have made, and many of us obviously choose to stay. And that investment continues. We get significant students, significant numbers of employees that were students at some time or another at CSU's EcoCar program, or part of CU's program in some way or another, or coming out of NREL, or coming out of School of Mines. So part of it is obviously access to labor. Another part is, where do people want to be? And we have very, very good success attracting people from California, attracting people from Michigan, especially, of course, and other places to come to Colorado and work. So I think that's the other side that is great. The flip side, of course, as we've talked about, there hasn't been, any support from the state or the governors in terms of regulatory push or drive of any significance that's driven our business. We have, I believe at this point, we have 2 whole vehicles we've sold to Colorado. Everything else we've ever sold goes into California or New York or Florida. So we would love some more tailwind here. We'd love some more support. But even without that, because of our success attracting great talent, that's the anchor point that to this point has kept us here. And obviously the executive team loves working here, and the environment is great, and we can get things done.
Thank you, Tim. And no doubt, the human resource and our talent pool in our state and in our region is really critical to driving our innovation. Let me ask Adrian, let me have you talk about what you think, why this region is a hub and how we compare on that global scale.
Sure. Actually, I think we are positioned extremely in a very strong scenario. A couple things we talked about during our last session here amongst this panel. We talked about, the benefits of being in Colorado, and, we talked about the mountains, skiing, hiking, all those great things, but that's really part of why people are interested, because of the way of life being one, but then also you have the skill sets of these individuals who are interested. I think someone coined, I'm gonna give it to Catherine and say she coined this as the crossroads of hardware and software, which was very interesting because if you look to the right, you have Michigan. You bring a lot of the automotive experience to the table. That's my background, and I actually came from a company, Motorola and Linamar, with the full automotive background experience, to UQM, which was purchased by Danfoss, and bringing that on board. And then you have to the left the tech world, and you have a lot of individuals, as Tim mentioned, coming from California and bringing that knowledge. But you also have this base of the students. And in our group, we have a strong group of tenured engineers who are still with our company, ranging from 17 to 30 years plus. So when you talk about the resources available in Colorado, they're there to build on and to grow. And then you have this left and right influx of individuals bringing the talent and to the team. It gives you that hub and that base to grow this electrification business within Colorado.
Thank you, Adrian, for that. And I'm going to turn to George next. I bet that, as we've talked about before, institutions are really important. So I imagine the Air Force might have a little bit something to do with us, why we might be.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So I like I said, I'm an Air Force guy. The Air Force Academy is a big deal to me. I did not attend there, but many of my team is ex-military veterans, primarily Air Force, but Navy, Marine Corps, Army. And we're very proud of that. It's a big deal to us. It's a technical achievement, but it's a life and it's a perspective, I think, that's invaluable. When I look at Colorado, I look at Colorado as an aerospace community, not just EV, but an aerospace community. It's technically sensitive and aware. When we talk about technology, we view it with an aerospace flavor. So all of the NREL, the great education, University of Colorado, CSU, et cetera, all of that's kind of coming up through, but we look at Colorado as a great aerospace community, along with the technology that's coming up with EV. So we love it here. Of course, health and the view of the community as a whole. But we love our state. It's a great aerospace state, along with the EV technology that's coming through.
Thank you, George. I'm going to go to Doug next. Doug, obviously, you've also worked with so many of our institutes of higher learning and our great, other organizations that are so great. So tell us why you think this area is such a good hub for clean tech, clean energy.
Yeah, well, first, I would be remiss if I didn't echo George Bai's statement, which is this is an absolutely fantastic aerospace community, of which up until 2 months ago, I had a very strong foot in that. So I know just living it in real time, how powerful of an aerospace community we are. Switching gears over to electric vehicles and clean tech. Why do I think the United States and Colorado in particular is so powerful in this space? I'll go back to a European Commission report that was issued just 2 days ago. And that European Commission report was centered on advanced battery technology and solid state in particular. And that European report concluded that one of the things that Europe lacks is the appetite for a high degree of innovation and risk taking. And it specifically cited 3 companies in the United States as being stellar exemplars of this behavior: QuantumScape in California, Ionic Materials in Massachusetts, and Solid Power right here in Colorado. So, I think to me that encompasses why the United States is so powerful in this space. Now, why Colorado? I really liked what Adrian said when he used Colorado as an example, the crossroads of software and hardware, because I echo that. I mean, hardware, it's in the name, it's hard. And I think Colorado is uniquely suited to tackle that, because by and large, we generally tend to not focus on hype. We tend to focus on very pragmatic solutions, which is the very essence of hardware, as opposed to, the next pets.com meets Facebook, which you don't see a lot of that in Colorado. You see a lot of that in Silicon Valley. That's not, for Colorado, we solve real problems. And frankly, we're well suited to solving hardware problems because they're hard. They take a lot of persistence. They take a lot of focus. And frankly speaking, that's our culture.
Thank you so much, Doug. And I'd also like to say that Doug won Cleantech Innovator of the Year this year. So congratulations on that too. So that's another thing. We have great innovators in our region, which is part of the reason I think we're a clean tech hub. But I will now go on to Lauren and ask Lauren, why do you think that we are such a clean tech hub, and how do you see that we compare? Obviously, as you said, you were going a lot to Europe. You can kind of compare and contrast that. Why do you think that there's something special about our clean tech cluster here?
Yeah, so our CEO is from France, but lives in Singapore, has an amazing global perspective, but knows the United States pretty well. And he, 4 years ago, was put in the position of deciding where to put EasyMile's North America headquarters. And obviously he chose Denver, and for pretty much all of the reasons that people have already cited. I'm not going to repeat it all. The one other one that I don't think was mentioned was just the central aspect. It's not specific to anything tech, but the ability, we have deployment engineers that need to be at our sites at a moment's notice. So the ability to get pretty much anywhere in North America within a day or do a day trip is pretty awesome from here. The other thing that I think was a really big influencer that we see play out all the time is the stakeholder ecosystem. And I know we've mentioned a lot of the universities, we've mentioned NREL. I think what's really unique about this place is not just that those places are here, but it's also that they all play really nicely together. And we've seen it time and time again. When you deploy autonomous vehicle projects, you automatically end up involving like 1,001 stakeholders, and everybody wants to have their piece of it. And what's really nice here is that people work really well together and really push to advance things together. And I can tell you, we've seen it the opposite way too. So it's a really very favorable environment for that. And then finally, and I mentioned regulations before, but Colorado happens to have some really solid autonomous vehicle regulations in place, which is, like I said, there's a mix across the country and of course the world. And Colorado finds some nice middle ground between providing a regulatory oversight, but not over-regulating the process. So, you know, it's a mix of a lot of different things, but we've been really grateful to have ended up here.
Thank you so much. That was really insightful. And I know that I personally feel that we have a great collaborative environment, which is very unusual, and that really helps to foster this innovation. At this point, what I'm going to be doing is asking our panelists to answer some of the questions from our audience members. The first question I'll be directing to Adrian, and then the other panelists can hop in on this too. But as leaders and managers, is addressing climate change part of your company's strategy? And if so, how is, in your case, Danfoss addressing climate change?
I would say it is part of our entire ecosystem. We actually have various groups, or I should say business units within the organization that address heating and cooling, automotive, commercial applications, as well as energy storage. So with all of those aspects, we are able to drive the various business units to the ground level of addressing how we address human life on a daily basis, how we address emissions on a daily basis, and how we address just the standard of living on a daily basis, just from the various business units that we have within our organization.
Thank you so much. Anyone else want to hop on and give us some ideas about your climate change? George, do you have a policy in your company?
We certainly do. In fact, I think there's greater sensitivity in the aviation sector to the CO2 aspect because it's airborne, it's aloft. And it's, of course, CO2 normally produced from an internal combustion engine or a turbine engine, and the particulates and so forth that go along with that. But the ability to eliminate that aspect is huge for us. It's huge for our customers, very, very sensitive to that. And we're proud to be among the leaders to help make that change.
Fantastic. Doug, would you like to chime in? Does Solid Power have a specific policy? Obviously, so many of your products are being used to help reduce emissions.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we have a policy per se. I would say reducing greenhouse gas emissions is just sort of part of our mission, you know, by enabling transition away from fossil fuels, use of fossil fuels, dependence on fossil fuels. That's precisely what vehicle electrification does. And so where we come into play is really addressing the market concerns around electric vehicles, which is performance, most notably vehicle range or lack thereof, sometimes referred to as range anxiety, and then vehicle cost. You know, the battery itself represents the single most expensive component in an electric vehicle. And if you're going to bring down the cost of electric vehicles, which absolutely needs to be done, because frankly speaking, most EVs today are luxury vehicles. That's great for early adopters, but for mass adoption, the cost of those EVs need to come down fairly dramatically. And so by doing things like creating a safer battery chemistry, which, you know, can eliminate a lot of those features, those engineering safety features, that's going to dramatically bring down EV costs. So we're sort of right in the center of enabling, you know, widespread market adoption of EVs.
Thank you. Lauren, what are your views? And does your company have a specific climate change policy, or how are you addressing this? Because it's so critical.
I agree. You know, we don't have a specific policy around it. However, to date, most of our clients are public agencies, so our clients do. And I think what's exciting is that we provide vehicles that can help them to address those policies. So it's a little more indirect, but the value, I think, is still there.
Thank you, Tim. If you'd like to discuss that, and I know we also have some questions about your charging stations and how expensive those are. So if you can also address both of those at the same
I
time.
think I'll interlink them. So obviously what we do is, as everybody else on the phone really does, sells a solution to help customers reduce climate change. Now we use it ourselves also, and we're also as a company very conscious of what our footprint is from a carbon and an emission standpoint, from a factory, from a manufacturing, from a business. So I think both of those are important, but obviously we measure weekly. We have telematics and analytics in all of our trucks that are in the field, and we know how much pollution and greenhouse gas we are saving. It's also important to recognize that when you think about greenhouse gas, it's not just CO2. Methane is significantly more harmful, most people believe, in terms of greenhouse gas. And so when you think about getting rid of diesel and even some of the historic older natural gas vehicles that are on the road, there's a real significant opportunity. So that's part of what it happens. But to enable that, we need to put in, the energy has to come from somewhere. And obviously, there's been a long discussion for the last 20 years about, great, you're going to electrify the vehicle, and certainly there's no longer any tailpipe emissions. So you do have a zero emission vehicle at tailpipe. But where did that electricity or that energy come from ultimately? Or in our case, we also do hydrogen. And so in the same way, where did the energy that made the hydrogen come from? And that comes from wherever the charging station drew it from. So part of our business of providing charging infrastructure is also looking with our energy partners and the people we use to do microgrids on some of these, as well as the utility partners, to say, where is the energy coming from and when can we program that energy most effectively. And in a fleet environment, most fleets want depot charging. We rent that depot charging to them, so it's very cost effective. And in California and Oregon and others, they can get that charging highly subsidized through the low carbon fuel system credits that exist. And I'm hoping Colorado and Governor Polis will implement that here as well. It's a very effective carbon tax at the fuel side. And so we look, when we put in these chargers, where's the energy coming from and when is that energy coming? So in most fleet situations, we can charge these vehicles, these buses, these trucks at night. And that obviously has a very significant advantage in terms of impact on the grid and opportunity. But even outside of that, we quite often look at, can we use green hydrogen if it's a hydrogen fuel vehicle? Can we use leverage a microgrid with a lot of solar on tap to make that energy significantly greener as we green up these fleets? So it is absolutely, as everybody's talked about, having to look at the entire life cycle of a vehicle, of the fuel, of the manufacturing, and we're very engaged in that. It's very important to us, and I think it's something that comes with being in Colorado as well.
Thank you so much, Tim. And we have another question. And any of the panelists can answer this. Are any of your manufacturing companies using facilities that are designated with the U.S. Foreign Trade Zone? And we may not have any who are. So I don't think we do have any that are. So that's something to look into. Well,
Yeah, we'll have to follow that.
Go ahead, Adrian.
No, I said that's something to follow up on. I was just commenting on just taking a note to follow up on that point.
It is. It's something that's really interesting. And I know that we have been looking into that for some of our members. So I'll ask the panelists for just one really quick thing. If you could say one thing that you're excited about in terms of the future for your company. Just very briefly, we can go around. Adrian, you start.
Well, just briefly, my background again has been with Motorola and electronics, and then has evolved. I started out with telematics, Bluetooth technology in automotive vehicles, GPS, dead reckoning, and all of that has evolved. If you look at where we are today, that is just commonplace for everyone. Everyone has Bluetooth technology, GPS. You walk your home, auto, car, place, work, whatever, you have that. No different with electrification. I can see, I've been a part of this technology walk, and today we sit back and say, is electrification going to be lucrative? Is it going to be real? It is real. I think we need to embrace it as an organization. Our company at Danfoss, we have done that. We're continuing to grow and evolve within the world stage, if you will, globally. And I think it's just something, a matter of time. I've seen the technology advance on the Bluetooth side. It will do the same on the EV side of it.
Thank you, Adrian. George, tell me one thing you're really excited about.
As you know, in aviation, we have the FAA that goes through and provides the certification basis or the criteria for safety and use of aircraft in the public, business sector, et cetera. And it is very exciting. We've been doing this, as I mentioned earlier, for 10 years plus. The last 2 years, we've engaged with the FAA for that certification of the eFlyer 2 project program aircraft. And I have to say, I'm thrilled. We can see the end in sight. We're starting to build the first production aircraft to complete that certification. And of course, the transition to deliver these aircraft to our customers is in sight. So very, very exciting. It's not a concept. It's not even a developmental prototype, which we've been flying for years now. It's time to produce aircraft for our customers. That's exciting. That's really exciting.
Well, I think our time is up. Catherine, is our time up? And I need to pass the baton on because we have to end a little earlier than normal.
Thank you so much, Helen. Best
Thank you.
moderator ever. We appreciate you so much. Thank you so much to our panel. Wow, how engaging, educational, and enlightening. I feel as though I'm walking away from this knowing so much more and so enthused. Thank you so very much to our audience for joining us. Please tune back in for part 2 of our sustainability series on sustainable supply chains. That will be March 4th at noon here with the World Trade Center, Denver. Please check out our website to learn more about our services and membership. We hope that you all have a wonderful rest of the day and stay well. And we look forward to seeing you again here at one of our events in the near future. Thank you again, Helen. Thank you again to everyone who's joined us. And thank you very, very much to our panelists today. And thank you so much, Mike King from CDOT. Best of luck to everyone who's joined us today. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks, panelists. Appreciate it. You did a great job. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Great job.
Bye-bye. Yeah, thank you all.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
it.
Everybody. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.